Our Holy Father St. Norbert sought to live the apostolic way of life, and he drew many others, the rich, the poor, men, women, to follow him in this endeavor, and he gathered them together in Prémontré in 1121. 900 years later, our Holy Father St. Norbert continues to inspire his sons and daughters to follow this way of life that he laid out. In our community, we seek to live out authentically the life that our Holy Father St. Norbert established 900 years ago.
We read in the Acts of the Apostles that the community were devoted to the teachings of the Apostle, the breaking of bread and the prayers, and that they had all things in common and were of one heart and one mind. Our charism is to live that apostolic way of life, which was the way of life of the first Christians.
The community moved to Tehachapi in 2000. At the time, the property was quite run down. By God's providence and the goodness of our Norbertine fathers, they helped very much to fix it up and make it suitable for the sisters to move here. At first, the sisters were living in trailers, and obviously that was not sufficient for our growing community. So in 2011, we were able to finally build a much-needed first phase of our monastery. When we moved into that building, we had about 20 sisters, and now we have over 40 sisters, and room is starting to diminish. Having reached our capacity, we need to look toward the future and look to build more suitable living quarters that we'd be able to house the entire community well, and be able to continue, especially to receive vocations of young women who are desirous to come here. Divine worship is at the very center of our life. As canonesses, we are dedicated in a special way by the Church to the solemn and public celebration of the liturgy. We return to the choir all together to praise our Lord and to seek His graces for the world that is so much in need of grace.
It's often struck me how pertinent our way of life is to the needs of our times, because we live in a very individualistic and self-centered culture. And because our life is completely centered around the liturgy and the worship of God, it kind of turns that inside out.
The world wants to forget about God, or as Solzhenitsyn said, all these things are happening because man has forgotten God. Or they want to live as though God does not exist. But monasteries and communities like ours, emphatically just by existing, proclaim the existence of God.
Following the completion of our first building, we began fundraising for our future chapel, something very dear to our hearts and especially necessary for the living out of our vocation as Norbertine Canonesses. Any funds that have been given specifically for the chapel, rest assured that they will continue to be used for that chapel. However, after speaking with various experts, we've decided that the direction that we really need to go in now is to complete our living quarters. We do have women interested in entering. What we were advised would be the best course of action to build next that portion of the monastery. Meanwhile, be designing, planning, getting permitting for the chapel building. And so the project would really move from that cloistered area of the living quarters right into the chapel construction.
The monastery is a place that is set aside for those who will devote themselves entirely to God and to their brethren, which is mankind, for the sake of God. And so even the architecture and the rooms, they are built to serve the particular purpose which a monastery is for. In the church is divine worship, but divine worship is a cosmic reality. We are actually mystically transported. We are both at Calvary and we're in heaven. We are with the angels praising God and the saints, and we're surrounded by the glory of God. If we're going to be true to the reality that is taking place then, we have to be surrounded by beauty. prior to the glory of God, we need an image of it to elevate us and to help us to participate more fully in the mystery which we will see, not in this life, but afterwards. But it's a preparation. In the struggles and difficulties of the world, people always want to look up to something and to have a hope and to know they're being prayed for and cared for. In Proverbs it says, without a vision the people perish. Without those signs that, yes, there's something beyond this world, yes, we can hope for something better, the people perish. And so it's important that there be monasteries all over the world to remind people of God and to give them hope that they are being prayed for, that they can come for solace, and that God is present in their midst in a particular way. It's a consolation.
Just the beauty of being dedicated to the liturgy and the solemn reverential celebration of the liturgy. And that's really all about God, because we don't even choose the chants that we sing, but when you just come to it every day just to worship God, because He should be worshipped. He created everything just because He was so good, and He holds us all in existence and redeemed us and made us His children. When I just think about that of course He should be worshipped, but that seems like something that's very lost in our world and in our culture. Just the fact that God deserves this. He deserves people to spend their whole lives on Him and on worshiping Him and giving Him everything. We're not here for selfish purposes. We're actually here because God deserves this. He deserves infinitely more than this.
The Norbertines are always relevant. And I'm not saying this because I'm a Norbertine, but because the liturgy, the celebration of the liturgy, that's the heart of the church's life. And the witness of the Jerusalem community is unto the end of the world. Until the last day, Norbertines will be relevant because the solemn celebration of the liturgy, the breaking of the bread and the prayers, and it being devoted to the word of the apostles, that is until the end of time. Just 900 years? Until the end of time, Norbertine order will be relevant.